My name is Mike Thompson, and I'm the senior coach for paraswimming in Swimming Canada. So we were supposed to do a bunch of competitions. We had our Olympic trials in a few weeks, and then everything shut down. But at that point, the games are still happening and trials are still happening. So my job was to keep athletes focused and ready, because we didn't necessarily have to be the best in the world at those trials at that point. We just had to be better than other people. So I figured there was a way we could make that work. So the amount of work that went in over 72, 104 hours, just trying to figure out how to make this work. It's definitely doable. We just need to make it work. So the stress there happened. That was quite a stressful 2 or 3 weeks. Then the games were postponed and our trials were postponed again. So we were asked to just take a break. And during that break, it wasn't easy because we weren't quite sure when we were going to be able to get back into training. There were a lot of questions, there were a lot of insecurities. There were people feeling that my life has led up to this moment, my first games, and now I can't go because of this virus. So there was a lot of uncertainty, and it was really tough. When we got back in the pool in June of 2020, we had a bunch of restrictions that we couldn't train more than once a day. We couldn't train for more than 90 minutes at a time. We couldn't do this, couldn't do that, and it was really tough. Most significantly though for me was that I couldn't leave the province. Working at INS wouldn't allow me to leave the province. So I have 2 children, 13 and 15, that live in London, Ontario, and I was working in Montreal. So not being able to see them for almost a full year was really, really damaging for me. Damaging for me, damaging for my relationship with them. And yes, video chat and video games online were fine, but it doesn't replace having a father in your life. So it was very, very difficult for me and really difficult for them. A lot of difficult conversations, a lot of crying. So when we decided, I believe in 2021, that we were going to start having the games were set, the dates was set for that. We were going to do some traveling. Then obviously in December, things picked up again. The cases got bad, and then we were stuck in Montreal again. We weren't allowed to travel, we weren't allowed to leave. So this went on for roughly about a year before I was able to see my children again. And that was really tough. And when I did see them, they mentioned how difficult things had been, and that was really tough on me. I think things kind of came to a head about 6 months later. I did a trip to Aberdeen, Scotland, which ended up being the worst trip I think I've ever taken in my life. A bunch of people got COVID while we were away. It was a mess. And I remember it was about midnight, I guess our time. I was talking to my daughter and complaining about how terrible this trip was, and I just wanted to come home and I just wanted to be with her. And she was 13 at the time, and said to me, "Dad, I'm okay with your decision to be there. It's fine. You've chosen this job, and I get it. That's fine." She said, "What I'm not okay with is you calling me to complain that you don't want to be there." So she was absolutely right. And we talked the next day about, she was panicking a bit about starting high school. And I asked her what was going to be, what was going to make it better for her. And she said, if I was there to help her through it, we'd be better. So that's what made me make a decision to talk to Swimming Canada to say, I'm burnt out. My kids need me. I need to do something else. Otherwise, I'm not going to be coaching again in 6 months. Luckily, they were understanding and nice enough to understand that if they kept me on and allowed me to fix the things in my life, I could come back stronger, probably about 10 times stronger and better. So that's kind of where my mental health journey came. Without distractions in the way, without having to think about trips and travel and what I was going to do with this athlete and that athlete, without those things, there was silence. And silence is great because it gives you an opportunity to reflect and think. And I think without those distractions, I was able to build a great relationship. I was able to be around with my daughter while she started high school and being able to volunteer doing the things that she loves. And my son started swimming, and I was able to, participate in that from a parent's standpoint, which is something that I never got to do before. So those little, small, simple pleasures really surprised me because my life had been so high octane up to that point that I never really took the time to stop and listen. And stopping and listening really did make a change for me. The thought process for me to step away for mental health reasons was extremely scary for me, because as a leader in the sport and a leader for my group and a leader in Quebec and a leader in Canada, like there's a lot of leadership positions there, and not everybody understands. That stigma is there, not everyone understands. The biggest fear for me was to step away and say that, I need help, only to come back and have people, judge me for that and say, well, maybe you're not ready for this, or maybe you can't do that because you just couldn't handle it before. And I did deal with that when I returned to work. It was a lot of explaining, behaviors to people that, this isn't a behavior that's antisocial. It's a behavior that I need to get away and I need to do something for myself. I think it helps when people come forward and talk about it, because I think that, if I'm not going to come forward and talk about it, there's about 6 or 7 other people that probably look to me for leadership. And if, I'm not able, if I come forward and say that I'm struggling and I need help, I think it allows other people to, maybe shatter that in themselves and say, he needs help, so why can't I get it? And I think, partially from taking that break and talking to people as I've come back, I think that's really made a difference to people, as seeing somebody actually taking initiative to prioritize their mental health over the sport. I started seeing a counselor back in 2014 when I lived in Ontario, and switched over to an actual psychologist in Montreal. And I think by using that person, again, it's very hard to describe what that person did for me. The question I get a lot is, what's the point? What do they do for you? The best way I can describe it is that I sat in a room with somebody who was allowing me, invalidating my feeling, not necessarily validating that what was going on was real or what was going on was true, just validating how I felt about that, and being able to live inside that emotion and explore that emotion, explore the root of that emotion, why it made me feel that way. Was I scared of something? Was there a trigger? Was there fear? Or was there a threat? So I think that was the most interesting piece, was just kind of getting to know my own emotions a little bit better. And that's nearly impossible to do by yourself. You certainly need someone across the room, listening, allowing you to facilitating the conversation, allowing you to open up a little bit more. High performance sport has phenomenal highs and phenomenal lows on both sides. I don't deal with the low lows very well, quite honestly. The high highs, I try to keep perspective on. There's no reason to go nuts when something is, we can be better than that, even though we were good. But on the low lows, I think it's really tough. I think being in the moment with those athletes is the best thing for me, is, diving inside and figuring out how they're feeling, how to piece together those emotions, and just kind of having the same kind of talk I would have with my psychologist around existing in that moment and not trying to fill it with banter or anything else. Just, sometimes silence can do the work. We hold coaches to a standard of professionalism, but I think the pushback on the other side we need to be treated like professionals, not just act like professionals. And I think being able to understand that professionals need help sometimes, professionals need a break sometimes, and professionals are going to be at their best when they get to work on their mental health and work on themselves. I think the one thing that I really wish I knew at the beginning of this journey is that I'm not alone in it. That there's more than just me that feels, bad sometimes, or has a hard time sleeping, or just can't regulate their lives. I wish I knew that it wasn't just me. I wish I knew that there were more people that were struggling, and I wish I knew where to go for help and what to do with the stuff I had to start. And if everybody knew that, it wouldn't be a crisis. I think that's the problem, is that it is a crisis. There are a lot of people that have problems and don't know what to do with it. So having game plan there to help us out is really helpful. Mental health of athletes and coaches is paramount if Canada really wants to, do what they say they want to do and own the podium. I think it's incredibly important to support the understanding that not everyone's okay 100% of the time.